excitement. Is there anything anybody else has a question for the planning board? Any non-wind related questions? Okay. The purpose of the next presentation is the town board, the planning board, the wind committee members that were not a member of either one of the boards have had several meetings over the winter for the purpose of trying to figure out some of the issues dealing with wind, sound, setbacks, etc. The town has hired a consultant, and the consultant gave a presentation. There is a project before the planning board from St. Lawrence Wind. They would like to address their interpretation of the sound and the sound measurement. Right? The purpose of that meeting tonight is to give them the opportunity. Right? They consider them the plaintiffs. They want to present their case. So the purpose is we're going to listen to their explanation politely, and the questions are going to be restricted in the essence of time to make sure they get through the whole thing to members of the committee and the members of the planning board and the town board. So, Brian, where's your presenter? Will you please come up and introduce yourself?
Well, my name is David Hessler, the dreaded David Hessler, that you've heard so much about. And as we just heard, the idea is to go over all of the work that we've done, which has come in for quite a bit of criticism. And what I wanted to do was go over in detail what we did and allow everybody to judge it for themselves, see whether it's Kool-Aid, as the bloggers say, or just common sense, as I think it is. So let's see. Maybe if we
John,
these
could you
lights or something. Yeah, that's better.
Take the other one too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why it's got that Star Wars thing to it, but it's still fairly legible. First of all, some background. The company I work for is called Hessler Associates, and it's a family business. It's my dad and I, essentially, and my younger brother does the computer modeling and things like that. My mom does the accounting. And the company was started back in 1976 by my dad, who worked at Pratt & Whitney. He was in charge of noise and jet engines. And I started the company to specifically design silencers for land-based gas turbines. So we've always been specializing in the power industry, power plants, power generation of every kind. And I've been designing conventional power plants for 20 years now, all over the world. But recently, in the past 5 years or so, all new power generation is all turning to renewables, particularly wind. We made no effort to get into wind, but we were just called by people who used to work for fossil companies that now work for renewables, that knew of us, and they said, can you come in and do an assessment for these projects that we're developing. At this point, we're up to about 59 major wind projects that we've worked on. Now, there's no ANSI standard or anything for doing this kind of a test. It's a very unique situation where the sound source is a function of the environment. A regular power plant just runs no matter what the wind is doing, and what we look for there is just the lowest background noise when it's real quiet at night, because the plant's just going to be running normally at that time. That's what we base the assessment on. But here, the wind turbines depend on the wind to operate. So the sound level, the background sound level, take that into account somehow. So that's what we are seeking to do in these things. All right, let's see if this works here. Okay, so the study that we did was to establish the existing conditions through field surveys. What you have to do is to establish what the background level is. And then you calculate what the project sound level is going to be. And you compare the two. If the project level is going to be significantly above the background, then it's going to be very audible, could be an impact. If the project's going to be below the background, won't be audible, won't be a problem. So you have to establish what is the existing background. So we evaluate the project relative to the existing level to gauge the potential impact. So we started out doing background sound surveys. And in New York, it's net. Some other states we don't do any background surveys, but in New York, it's required because the DEC guidelines are relative in nature. They allow a certain increase over the background, so you have to know what the background is to be able to calculate what how much the level is going to go up for the project. And the general rule of thumb that they state in the guidelines is that as long as a new project doesn't increase the background by more than 6, then it's probably all right. It's not going to be tremendously audible above the background. So in the surveys, we did 2 surveys. We did one in the summertime for 17 days in August, September. And we came back in the winter, and we measured for 20 days around Christmas time of 2007. Survey objectives. We're looking to figure out what the background sound level is as a function of wind speed. And to evaluate, because we did it measured in summer and winter, we were looking for seasonal variation. We were looking for any variation within the site area. Specifically, we were directed to measure down at the river's edge because a lot of people live down there. And the bottom line was to establish a baseline level from which the 6 increase could then be calculated. So here are the positions that we selected for the background measurements. And, let's see what we got. I did bring this laser thing. So we had the project area basically is in this area between these roads here, down around here and up towards the air road up to this is Sand Bay Road. Down in here, this is the project area. So we measured a position here. The idea was to try to get kind of a uniform distribution over the project area, and what we were looking for specifically was different settings, like out in the open, near trees, near the road here, near the river, to see if there's any difference between various positions. So we had we selected these 6, and they're shown in much more detail here. So position 1 was up there in the north part of the site, and the monitor was placed on a tree back here, way back 1,000 feet back from the road, just in this near this farm field. And we wanted to get it far enough away from the farm that we didn't have any noise from milking machines or anything else going on. The next position is at another farm, but out in the open. The monitor's just put on a fence here